Today we're talking about MCAT and how your MCAT score can be so off from your GPA. So if you want to understand what your GPA means for your MCAT and how you can be most prepared for your MCAT and how you can maximize your MCAT score, this is the video. And this is one of your guys' questions you submitted to me, so thank you so much. And let's see who's on here right now. Matt, Harpreet, Victor, what up, what up? Sarah, Sally, Ahmad, Meryl, all right, Kasim, Juhi, Jordan, what's up? All right, guys, so let's get at it. MCAT today, yes, the fresh cut. But stop making excuses, stop whining, stop, right? Get at it. No excuses, just dominate. Alex, what is up? Liz, what is up? All right, so today we're talking MCAT. You guys always send me emails and voicemails and the like. If you are a student and you want a reliable answer to your question, please send me a voicemail. Yes, you could send me an email, but I don't love to read all the emails. I love to hear you guys' voice. I love to send you a voicemail back so we can actually have a conversation. So get over to my website, studenttransformation.com, and leave me a voicemail if you want your question answered. All right, so for you guys first joining me, never been here with me, I'm Dr. Pinesett. I'm the study doc, and I help you guys be more efficient, be more confident, and of course, be more competent to just get where you want to go, whether that's being successful in college, in high school, in graduate school, or getting into medical school, whatever it might be. Danny, hello from St. Louis, back at you in St. Louis, what up? So here's a student's email that sent to me. It said, hi, Dr. Pinesett. I just signed up for your MCAT course last night, and I started watching it today. I see that it is very thorough and there's lots of information. I've taken the MCAT twice and gotten the same low score of 491. The first time I took it without a prep course. The second time I did with Princeton Review, which was too fast for me, so it didn't help me much. I'm not generally a weak studier because my GPA was 3.85 from insert university as a bio pre-med major. But that was because I knew what I was doing. But studying the MCAT, I feel lost. I wanted to talk with you on the phone for some guidance on my situation, if this was possible. Maybe you know exactly what kind of student I am and know what advice to give me so I could skip through the fluff and get studying again more efficiently this time. So this email has so many good learning points. Let's start with this. The myth of the smart student. So many of us, some of you guys on here, you feel smart. You would consider yourself a smart student. Everyone tells you you're a great student, you're a smart student, you're incredible, you're intelligent, you're a genius. And there's some of you guys on here who are told you are dumb, you don't have what it takes, you're not as smart as so-and-so, and you can't be successful, right? So there's two kind of big camps. Some of you guys are in the middle, right? You're like, I'm an all right student, whatever. We have to understand that intelligence, in terms of our fund of knowledge, the things that we know, right? Our skill, our professionalism as a student, our ability to perform in the classroom, those things are not innate. Some of us start from a stronger brain place. Some of us have had more opportunities to grow our fund of knowledge, but we must all understand that wherever smartness, quote unquote, you're at, it's because of your past experience and what you've developed to be. And whether you are considered dumb or you're considered smart, you can change that. If you're considered smart, you're at the top of your class, you're doing well, you can change that. You can become the underperforming student if you don't put in the work to continue to grow your skills, one, and secondly, put in the work to continue to get better as a student and in the classroom. The other camp, if you guys are bad students, yes, you can get better, yes, you can get smart, but it's going to take real work, real change, and real effort on your part. Because we all have a distance to travel to our intelligence. How far are you in that journey? Right? So some of us have further to travel than other ones. Recognize that, but understand no one's smart, no one's dumb. So I get lots of emails from students like this. That's why I thought it was a good email to bring up, where students have super high GPAs, but can't figure out why they're struggling so much with the MCAT. Students had great community college, and it's the same thing as students who have great community college GPAs, get to college and are all of a sudden failing their classes. It's the same thing as students who are great in college, get to medical school, get to graduate school, and struggle and can't figure out why. What's the disconnect? And their email always starts saying, listen, I'm a great student, I know how to study, I'm 3.85 from whatever level I'm at, and now I'm at this level, and I'm struggling. Something's wrong, fix me. You guys know what I'm saying? Who's experienced that transitional difficulty? How many of you guys are preparing for the MCAT and you're like, man, everything else I was doing so great in my class, but now on this MCAT, why am I struggling? Right? We all get there. And what I want you guys to understand is that because we are all smart is relative, and our GPA is not necessarily a reflection of our intelligence, but a reflection of our preparation to get that A, that is different from being able to deliver on the MCAT. It's different. And the way it's different, and as I explained to students, your standardized test proficiency is different from how you are as a student performer. The reason, right, that medical schools say they want an MCAT instead of just having your grades is because they want an objective measure of you as a student. Because there are so many things that can factor in to a GPA, either raising it or lowering it. So they want a benchmark to be able to compare people. And with this MCAT, what people don't recognize is just because you're an A student, just because you get an A in a class, does not mean that you have mastered that material, does not mean that you even understand that material, and definitely doesn't mean you're going to be able to apply that material effectively 2 years down the line on the MCAT. That's entirely different. So many premeds make the mistake of focusing solely on what's in front of them. And you guys know what I'm talking about, where you're trying to survive the day? Who's in that survival mode? Okay, if I just get through this week, I'm gonna start planning ahead. If I just get through this class, I'm gonna start planning ahead. If I can just get through this, then I'm gonna be moving, right? We say this to ourselves. If I can just get through, then I'll be on to this next thing. And I'm gonna get it together. And what we don't recognize is that when we get into this process of saying tomorrow, and I'm gonna change, and I'm just trying to survive the moment, we lose the forest right for the trees. We're so focused on what's right in front of our face and that immediate outcome that we neglect the long-term outcome, and that's when we get tripped up. So when you guys are just focusing on, okay, listen, I'm gonna do exactly what the teacher says. I'm only gonna look at the PowerPoint slides. I'm not gonna read the book. I'm not gonna learn anything more. I just wanna get all the points I can and pass this class. And then I'll never have to think about OChem again. Just gotta get through OChem and not flunk out. That's how we think about the process. But what's sad and unfortunate is that years later, that mentality of trying to survive is going to come back to bite you in the butt because the MCAT is coming. And if you just did the bare minimum to get through some of your required coursework just to get the grade, and you don't actually have knowledge, you're not going to be prepared to do well on the MCAT. And consequently, your MCAT will be drastically different from your GPA. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So when I have a student who emails me and says 3.85 GPA, 491 MCAT, what's going on? Well, what's going on is you focused on getting the grades, most likely. That's what happened. And as a result, you weren't thinking, oh snap, the MCAT, which is the ultimate cumulative exam, is coming up. I'm not ready for it. I'm not there. That's the first thing that can happen. The second way that this can happen is students who do try to go beyond the grade, right? And they do try to learn and do try to understand, but their study skills and the study systems they have in place to execute are limited, are rudimentary, and therefore they do okay class to class, right? But then when you bundle all those classes together in the ultimate cumulative exam of the MCAT, they have no way to get at all the information simultaneously and apply it at a rate that the MCAT requires. And the equivalent for you guys, you can understand, is how many of you guys, when you hear the test, the final is not cumulative, you get super excited. You're like, raise the roof, raise the roof. Non-cumulative final? I can forget everything before the midterm? Why does that sound so good to you? Shouldn't a cumulative final be just as easy as a non-cumulative final? You already learned and got a good grade on the midterm. Why would it be harder to have a cumulative final? Because now you're forced not to remember just the second half of the class. You're forced to double the amount of content you technically need to be able to apply at a high level. That requires a different level of study process, a different level of test taking process. So when it comes to the MCAT, maybe you're going to get A's in individual classes when you're doing 10 weeks worth of material or 16 weeks worth of material. But now I'm asking you to sit down for 6 to 8 hours and take a test that combines everything you should have learned for 4 years, and the sheer volume of that is overwhelming. You don't have a mechanism to get at that. Does that make sense to people, what I'm saying right now? Either you are going through your classes just trying to get by, just focus on the classes, not thinking about what's coming down the road, or maybe you were trying to be bigger than that, but your study skills allowed you to get A's in blocks, but you don't have the skills to put everything together, get everything in your brain. That's the other part of it. So we have to understand that as we go through our undergrad classes, when we go through undergrad classes, we must have a mechanism that allows us to efficiently look down the road and prepare for the MCAT. So what I'm going to give you guys now are a couple strategies to improve your ability to prepare for the MCAT by utilizing your coursework. If you guys don't know, I have a comprehensive, a full-scale MCAT course that teaches you specifically how to study for the MCAT. It doesn't include any content or anything like that, but it teaches you how to approach the MCAT. And this is all important because for many of you guys, right, as this student said, I felt great. I felt great in undergrad. Let me read exactly what she said. But studying for the MCAT, I feel lost. And so many of you guys feel that way. My course is the roadmap to organize yourself, to remove the overwhelm, to have a concrete plan for doing well on the MCAT. As part of that, I teach you guys a full system. I march it all the way down, all these steps, to efficiently prepare for the MCAT during your undergrad. So to use your classes and just kind of seamlessly weave in your MCAT prep in a non-overwhelming, right, non-cumbersome way to get prepared for the MCAT. So what I'm going to do now is give you guys some of the points from this so you guys can start approaching your MCAT wherever you're at. And as I say, using your undergrad, many of you guys, if you're waiting for the MCAT, odds are you're in a class right now. You're in a course right now. And wouldn't it be better if even for one course, you were smart enough to use that one term to prepare for the MCAT? What if you had that skill? Would that change your MCAT prep? So the very first thing is that we must have a mindset for the MCAT and looking beyond the grades. As I said, too many students are focused right on what's in front of them, right on the grade, right on what the teacher thinks is important, and they're not considering what's important for their MCAT, what's important for medical school, and it's going to come back to haunt you. If you guys don't know, the first quarter of medical school, the first little block of medical school is a review of what you should have learned in undergrad, all the biochemistry, all the molecular biology, all that stuff that you're like, ooh, I never think once again I'm going to go treat patients. No, it's still there. So what you guys have to do is as you go through your coursework, stop trying to focus on the A. Yes, you want to get the A's. Yes, you need to get the A's, but focus on learning and learning first. And what's amazing is if you change that and you say, listen, I just want to learn as much as I can, as well as I can, you'll see that you'll actually have more fun. And also you'll see that your ability to learn and understand will go up. And then the big consequence is that you'll get the A's anyway. And it sounds subtle, guys, but it's a big difference in perspective of every day. If you set out to say, listen, I'm going to get this material, I'm going to understand the material, as opposed to I'm going to get through the course, it changes how you approach things. So you first have to say, I'm going to go beyond the grades. And then when we go beyond the grades, we're going to say, wait a minute, I'm going to think about the MCAT. So as we go through courses, and you guys have experienced this, much of what the professor says is important isn't important. And you feel it when they say it, like, oh man, this is such great, interesting stuff. And because they're into research, they're excited about something. So they talk about that. And you're like, this has nothing to do with life at all. The example you used is not relevant. I don't care about your research, but they give it to you. So as you guys go through classes, you want to be sifting through the material actively thinking, wait a minute, what's really important? What's a fundamental? What will be good as gold going past this course? Okay? And as part of that, when we're not thinking about just the grade or just the moment, we have to think about our long-term ability to retain this information. What is the key to retention? If you want to improve your ability, what's the top thing? It's undisputed. What is the number one thing you can do to improve your retention of material? We are live, guys. Here we are live, so I will wait for you to answer this question. This is important. This is a fundamental. If you want to improve your ability to hold information for long periods of time, what is the number one thing you must do? Yusuf, meaningful is close number 2. Number 1, though, what happens before making meaningful? There we go, Harpreet. My boy Harpreet coming through strong. Repetition. Reps, as Kasim just said. If you want something to be sticky into your brain, if you want to hold it for a long time, the way to maximize retention is to maximize repetition. So the more reps you get in material every single time you do a repetition, you bump up your retention of that material. And I won't bore you guys, but you guys have seen the curve of forgetting and the Ebbinghaus curve, and people talk about Anki having a built-in thing that reminds you to look at it, to bump your retrieval. All that stuff is fancy. But the core fundamental of it is that the more repetitions you have, you boost your baseline retention of that material. And if you appropriately allocate the frequency of those repetitions, you again minimize your forgetting and maximize your foundation even more. So that's the second step. But so many of you guys suffer from lack of repetitions in the material, so therefore you have no repetition. You have no retention. How many of you guys, the week of the final, are still learning new content? How many of you guys go through the content once or twice before your test because you're so rushed? Think about this, guys. How many of you guys are like, man, I saw everything, I read all the chapters, I'm good to go. You make notes and you never have time to go back and review the notes. That's not effective repetition. In my case, I would repetize before a test hundreds of times, if not thousands of times. And in order to do that, what you guys have to do is change up your note-taking game. So many of you guys, A, don't take effective notes, but B, some of you guys don't even take notes at all. You must take notes, and we must take notes with purpose. So I call it purposeful note-taking. When we are taking notes, we must think to ourselves, right, and this is where people get hung up again on the MCAT, to help your MCAT setting. How many of you guys are making flashcards or making notes for your MCAT, but you're like, when should I review them? How should I review them? I feel overwhelmed. How many of you guys feel that way as you guys prepare? Right? How many of you guys, even in your classes, you're like, man, I'm making notes, I'm making flashcards, I can't make them all, I don't have time, and I never have time to review them, or I only review half of them. I feel overwhelmed. Look at that big stack. How many of you guys feel this way? Right? Again, we are live. I have no problem waiting. Right? Omar Abdul Malik agrees with us. Make sure you guys go follow his channel. We pull his name up so you guys know who he is. Not Kasim. I don't want to pull you up, Kasim. There we go. Make sure you guys go follow him. PA professional, y'all. Okay. People are saying, dang right. People are saying, yes, that's a struggle. Yes, right? That way. So what we have to understand, what is the actual purpose of notes? What is the purpose of flashcards? So many students, and this is why, again, I get upset at the gram or TikTok. The colorfulness of your notes, the beauty of your calligraphy notes means nothing. You writing on the whiteboard means nothing. It's ludicrous. When we take notes, the purpose of notes is not to make notes. The purpose of notes is to review said notes. So if you are taking notes in a way that doesn't allow you the time, the energy, or the desire to review those notes, you're slipping. Because you won't get the repetitions that those notes are useful for. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Making a note means nothing. It's like your to-do list. You make a to-do list, and where's the to-do list? If you can't find the to-do list, it does nothing. So if you make notes and you don't ever get a chance to review them, you don't want to review them, you're never going to improve your learning. So as you guys enter your classes, I encourage all of you guys to be purposeful note takers and recognize a note is only as valuable as the repetitions it allows you to get. And as you guys move through your courses and you make streamlined, efficient, tight, meaningful notes, get those repetitions in, and you'll see on test day you'll be stronger. And then even more, when you go to start studying for the MCAT in a focused manner months before your MCAT, you'll see that things will come back to you faster. Why? Because as things come back to you, right? Because you already have repetitions, you have a fund of knowledge that you won't forget. And yes, this is you. Jessica May is on here. This is for you. You sent me this email, so now I'm answering your question on here. Woo, woo, what up? Right? So this is what we're talking about. Does everybody understand what I'm saying right here? If you take good notes and you repetize those notes more times, you'll have better retention in the short term. But here's the other thing that taking good quality notes allows you to do. Repetize leading up to the MCAT. So many of you guys take a class and you never think about that class again until MCAT day. That's not going to work. Because now maybe you took that class freshman year and 3 years later you're going to take the MCAT and you haven't seen that content for 3 years. Wouldn't it be smart to, at regular intervals, review that content to get repetitions to boost, right? To reduce your forgetting and boost the freshness of that material, the stickiness of that material. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you guys get the difference here, right? So we got to repetize within our class, but then how many of you guys, you can't just, I know so many students who do this. End of the term, open up the backpack, empty the backpack in the trash can. What? So many of you guys who don't take separate notes, take notes in your books, which is a bad idea, and then you sell the book to someone else or give the book to someone else. Well, then where do your notes go? To someone else. So then how can you review at regular intervals leading up to the MCAT? You don't need fancy Anki. You don't need some software to tell you to do this. If you have notes, if you kept them, if you made them nice, you can review them whenever you want at your leisure to keep it fresh in your mind. That will separate you when it comes time to MCAT prep. As part of that, so many of you guys, I mentioned throwing notes away, but so many of you guys don't make your notes in a sustainable format. This is why I roll my eyes when I see people taking notes on the whiteboard. Why? Because you can't save a whiteboard. Some people will take their notes, right? Oh yeah, on the whiteboard, and they take a picture of it. Oh yeah, that's great. No, it's not. Why? Whiteboards have glare, 1. 2, that whiteboard picture is going to be shrunk down. So now it's hard to read. You got to kind of squint at it to see what you wrote. And what does that do, guys? That makes repetition slower, less desirable. It's awful. So you won't repetize that effectively. So what you guys need to do is, as you make your notes, think about the sustainability of your notes for a long-term review. Meaning, are my notes in a form, in a media, in a format that I can easily review? So it's good to look at. They're at hand. So can I save them on my computer? Do I have a stack of notebooks where I know where I'm putting these? Whichever way I'm doing it, is it easy to find? Are the notes organized? So many of you guys, as you guys go through the term, you take notes out of order. Maybe the teacher's teaching out of order, or maybe you didn't have your notebook that day, or maybe you didn't have the correct document that day. You didn't have your iPad, so you took a note here, a note there, a note there, and you never consolidate and bring all the notes together. So then how in the world are your notes going to be organized enough for you to review that material a year later, or when it comes time for the MCAT? So you have to bring it all together, consolidate those notes, and have them be organized so that you can and you want to review them. Does that make sense to everybody? If this is making sense to you right now, like this video. Let me know you guys understand what I'm saying right now. And for you guys who are saying that you're struggling with the things I'm talking about and that what I'm saying to you makes sense, this is a short segment. But like I said, my full MCAT course lays all this stuff out in detail of how to do this so you can't mess it up, so you can get it right. Does that make sense? So if you guys are interested, please check that out. It's called How to Dominate the MCAT Without an Expensive Prep Class. It's on, it's very affordable for you guys to get, so check that out, okay? That's point number 2, is making those good notes, okay? The third point is you guys, as you guys walk through your career, as you guys go to prepare for the MCAT and you want to see gains. The third thing you must do is you guys must create an on-ramp to MCAT prep. Hear me and hear me now. You must create an on-ramp to MCAT prep. What this means is that so many of you guys try to jump right into the deep ocean of MCAT. And the reality is that you guys, right, the MCAT is overwhelming because it's so much information. It's so much content. And if you just try to jump into the deep end, you will drown and flounder because you won't have any orientation to where you're supposed to be at. So one of the things I always stress to people is we talk about making these notes, making them sustainable, and reviewing them from time to time. But before you launch into any MCAT prep program or anything like that, sit down with your old notes and go through them first to create a familiar reference that, as, who was it earlier that said this? I think it was Yusuf that said this. You're going to a reference that is meaningful, that you made. So when you go through meaningful notes to start with, it makes your review, it gives you that momentum, that mojo to get going and to feel like, oh, I remember this, oh, I remember this, oh, I remember this, and you're grooving into MCAT prep, as opposed to jumping in the deep, rocky seas of a full-blown MCAT class where you have 50 books written in ways you've never seen before. The pages are unfamiliar, they're unorganized, so it makes it feel much harder than it has to be. Does that make sense? So we want to create an on-ramp to our preparation. In addition, when we enter our acute, as I call it, I have a chronic period, a subacute MCAT study period, and then I have an acute MCAT period. The chronic period is years out from your MCAT. The subacute period is the period where you're ramping up for the MCAT, but you're not solely focused heavily on the MCAT. In the acute period is when we're saying I've got 3 months, 6 months, 9 months or whatever, and my number one priority is MCAT. And everything else, no matter what I'm doing, classes, whatever, is a secondary priority. So the bulk of my time, my energy, and my brain focus is on the MCAT. So that's the acute period. In the acute period, how do you make your studying as high yield as possible? How do you make your studying matter? How do you bring back all that content? Question-based learning. Question-based learning. It's so important, guys, that you learn from questions, not the week before your test, not the month before the test, but when you first start your MCAT prep, you need to be doing questions. Why? Because for you guys who have ever studied for the MCAT, if you don't start doing questions early, what you find is that you don't have time for questions, you never get to questions, you never work on your test-taking skills, your critical thinking skills, and therefore you struggle to do what? Think critically and test well. Do we understand what I'm saying? And as an extension of that, and as part of that, you guys have heard me say this before. When I say question-based learning, I am not talking about full-length test. Because a full-length test is not congruent, does not fit the literature, the science, the neurocognitive aspects of preparation that is congruent with question-based learning. A full-length test has nothing to do with question-based learning. That is what internet trolls say. The reality is that full-length tests are not question-based learning. They do not support it, and they break all of the key principles of high-level question-based learning. Does this make sense? So for you guys who you rush out and you buy all the AAMC full-length tests, it's not necessary. It's a waste of money and it's a waste of your time. What you need to do instead is invest in question-based learning with question banks and question books, and then have a correct methodology for getting at those questions and doing those questions early. And if you guys can do these sort of things, you'll see a boost in your MCAT score. So for you guys, right? Let's bring it all together. If you have a high GPA, does that mean you're going to score well in the MCAT? Absolutely not. You must prepare specifically for the MCAT. And to do that, you should be using your courses as preparation for the MCAT, because the MCAT is an undergrad full length. Sorry, is an undergrad cumulative test. So you should be using each and every class as an opportunity to boost your MCAT score. And thinking beyond the grades by looking at and having a goal of learning well, learning deep, and learning long for your life. As part of that, we're going to take effective notes that are purposeful, not made to be made, but made to be reviewed, and reviewed so much. And as we make those notes, we then must review them and repetize. Because what? To maximize retention, we must maximize repetition. So get your reps up during the class so that way your foundation is higher. And then periodically leading up to your MCAT and the years leading up, pick a day a month, pick a day every 3 months, and review your past notes to keep everything fresh. Does that make sense? And then as we get to our acute MCAT study period, we create an on-ramp by reviewing what we already had. So it's familiar, it's nice, it looks pretty, all those kind of things. And then we dive into our focused MCAT prep, utilizing predominantly questions, not full lengths, but questions, and using them right to boost our score. Right? Whew. Does that make sense, everybody? Does this make sense? And I'm not going to go on a whole tangent about full-length tests. I have a video about that already, so go check that out. But they don't do what they think you do. Does everybody understand? And so Liz says, so when should we start saving notes from pre-med classes? Day one. So in my MCAT course, I actually have high schoolers. Why? Because they are preparing their foundation for the MCAT, preparing their foundation for med school, preparing their foundation. So the moment you guys recognize your pre-med, you should guys be acting like it. I don't understand why people they claim they're pre-med, but then they don't start moving towards pre-med. They don't start moving towards medical school. Because pre-med is an intention. It's an intention saying, I want to go to medical school. So then if you want it, what are you doing to go get it? Does this make sense to everybody? And the student who submitted this question just posted in the box, yes, I'll implement it, but for med school since I already graduated. So many of you guys act like life is only one direction. So you know what? I never used my classes to create effective notes during undergrad, so therefore I can't create my own notes for MCAT. I'm just going to have to be limited to what the prep companies give me. But what if you sat down and took competent notes and took the time to go back and make your notes for all the required prerequisites? Would you be in a better position? Would you be more knowledgeable? Or would you be in a worse position if you did that? Right? Of course, you'd be in a better position. But the problem is that takes time, that takes hard work, that takes effort. And so if you've already graduated, it's easier to say, I already graduated. I'm not looking back. I'm only going to look forward, not recognizing that your inability to look backwards is preventing you from moving forward. This is why people say, oh my gosh, I did so great in algebra, now I suck at geometry. No, you sucked at algebra, you just didn't get exposed. You got the A, but you weren't a good algebra student, so now you struggle in geometry. You weren't good in geometry even though you thought you were, and that's why you can't do well in calculus. You weren't a good chemistry student. You learned the bare minimum of chemistry. You're not a periodic table expert, and therefore you get to OChem and you're like, well, this is entirely new information. No, it's not. It's the periodic table plus. So sometimes we have to recognize that if we want to go and be advanced and we have big goals, what so often trips us up is not having our fundamentals and our basics down. Do you guys understand what I'm saying right here, right now? If you guys don't have your basics, if you don't have your fundamentals down, you're making your life so much harder than it has to be. This is the reality. When we focus only on the grades, or we focus only on X, or we focus, and we're not thinking down the road, and we're just trying to get through and survive and buy things, as opposed to absolutely crushing them, we are set ourselves up to dip a little bit in the future. And I love that. Benjamin put that up there. To shoot an arrow, you have to pull it back. I love that. It's a great analogy. To shoot an arrow, you have to pull it back. How many of you guys are willing to take a step back to propel yourself forward? Think about that. And Liz, I answered your question. So say yes. Say yes, you answered my question right now. All right? Everyone, take the time, get your things right. Get your things in order. And then as I'll finish this, the student who sent me this, they got a 491 on the MCAT. For you guys, a 491 is very low. If you are a sub 500 MCAT score, I know how difficult and how painful that can be to get back up. I know what that feels like. It feels like a label of I'm not meant to be a doctor. But I want to encourage all of you guys to recognize you can improve, you can get better. You can come back from this. And I had a student actually just sent me a voicemail recently saying that they went on their MCAT from a low 490s, they went up to a 508. And you guys be like, oh, 508, that's not impressive. To go from a low 490s to a 508, that's 18-point jump almost, guys. That's very impressive. And I'm very happy for the student. I'm very proud of the student. And I celebrate a 508 because that's big time improvement. And so for all of you guys who feel like, man, my score is so low, my score's not improving my full lengths, I can't get there, don't worry. Worry, but don't worry. Don't feel defeated. Instead, understand, hey, all I gotta do is I gotta get something new in my life. I gotta do something differently. I gotta work harder. You got to hustle. And I know that a lot of people on the internet tell you, this is how I got a 520 with 1 week of studying. This is how whatever. Please don't watch those videos. And I only say this because anyone who tells you that they can get a top MCAT score with 1 week of studying is lying to your face. They're the friend who tells you, oh no, don't worry about the final. Psh, you'll get an A. I didn't even study. Come on with me to this party. I didn't even study. Come with me to this party. You know what's up. Be alert, not anxious, as our preacher said, right? And yeah, and everybody, congratulate that person because they'll probably watch this. Congratulate that person and say, hey, congratulations on getting your score that you need to move on to your journey. Because I'm proud of that score. So everyone, congratulate that person. But understand, if you are a low scorer, there is no shortcut. You've got to put work in and you've got to change up your system. So to the student who's on here right now who sent me this email, when you say Princeton review is too fast for you, I can see that. Because that's what happens a lot of these prep classes that are on a set schedule. It's information overload at a rate that's not personalized for you. I understand that. So you've got to go a different way. Whether it's my prep or it's someone else's prep, you've got to go a different way, find a different system. Because to repeat what you've already done and not done well on, it's not gonna match up. It's not gonna match up. So you must pick a different system. And I really enjoy my course. I think my MCAT course is great. Why? One, it's affordable. But secondly, it actually teaches you how to organize everything, how to get your schedule down, what resources to use, how to use them, how to do question-based learning properly, how to take time off, it teaches you all those aspects. So if you guys are looking for a different approach, check out my MCAT course. It's 10 times cheaper than what's out there. I encourage all of you guys to check that out. Yep. Oh, I love that. And I can't read your username, 08 Rainu. I'm so ready to set my arrow. Too much wasted time not doing it the right way. I love that. Do things the right way, guys. You can always reset. Make today the first day of what? The rest of your life. You can always reset. You can always start over, no matter how much damage you think you've done to your life, to your career, to your friendships, to your relationship. You can get that girl back. I believe in you. Jordan, you're on here right now. That girl who you think you wronged, you can get her back. Baby, come back. Yeah, just apologize. Bring her back to you. Shed and I right now. Let me let you guys know. This is the tip of the day, guys. Forget everything else. This is what you need to know. Valentine's Day was last week. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody out there. And I am married happily, but I don't celebrate Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day. Why? Because they jack the prices up on you. Everything's super crowded. So what I do, like, it's strategic. So I tell my wife, hey, listen, we're not doing it on Valentine's Day, but in lieu of that, you get multi-day celebration the following week. So not only do I save my money, but she gets 3 times the Valentine's Day, and everybody's happy. So in a couple hours, I'm going to a comedy show to see one of her favorite comedians, who's also one of my favorite comedians, coming together, and it's amazing. And then we're going to a wonderful throwback R&B concert in a couple weeks. So see, I got all that for the price of what Valentine's Day would cost me. It's amazing. So, all right, so that is the strategy of the day, guys. Love on the cheap, affordable love. That's what we're about here, effective love. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great, wonderful day wherever you're enjoying this. If this was helpful to you, take a second, like the video. If this is your first time with us, welcome. Subscribe, and then make sure you guys hit that little bell logo to turn on live notifications. So that way you guys can hear every time I'm going live. You can get on here, you can ask questions, all that stuff. When I like that, living proof. You can always reset. The arrow calleth you. I use twasm words like that. Calleth, doth be, right? So I like that. The arrow calls you. Reset your life, guys. Reset your life. Go get it. We are done. How do we always end, guys? How do we end these sessions? How do we end them? No excuses. Just dominate, guys. Everyone have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time. Later, y'all. Today is the day, guys. No more excuses. No more complaining. You're going to take your future in your own hands. You're going to dominate. You're going to be successful. Get to my website, studenttransformation.com. I challenge you. What are you going to do today to make your life better?